This fall, the Sandman, Adam Sandler, You're My Best Friend Tour.
I feel like we're very good friends now.
Casey Center, Saturday, October 4th. Get tickets now at HiVTix.com.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. GameDay Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners. Best enjoyed with an Easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Big Ten fans, and Hawkeye fans, and Iowans everywhere. Forget week 0. It is week 1 now in college football. Now we get to go, Scott. Chad Leistikow here of the Des Moines Register, Scott Dochterman of The Athletic. We're in the Channel Seed Studios here on Iowa Everywhere for our 108th episode together, brought to you by GameDay Men's Health. Our third Hawkeye football season together, Scott. Finally, week 1. We get Big Ten games. We got a lot on the menu tonight.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it, Chad, to finally get here? It's kind of like a version of Christmas, if you will, to finally get to college football season. It felt like that on Sunday or Saturday when we were watching the game in Ireland and a few other games that were going on. But I think certainly when you talk about we're having this be the first full week, and today, Thursday, 4 Big Ten games. We're finally there. It's pretty great.
Yeah, there's a fun one tonight. We're going to preview a few of the Big Ten games, talk a little Big Ten later in the show. We're going to talk some Hawkeyes. We're going to talk some Cyclones even, just because that's Iowa's week 2 opponent. How do we feel about Iowa State and that Iowa matchup on September 6th? But Scott, I know it's week 1, but I'm fired up about this Jay Higgins stuff. I just think it's like one of the coolest stories that we've seen in the Kirk Ferentz era. I mean, a guy that had MAC-only offers, waited. I mean, every single piece about the Jay Higgins story, Scott, has been perseverance, patience. I mean, you name it. Unrecruited, too small. He's basically like Rudy almost, but he's, way better than Rudy.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And he becomes a consensus All-American, a unanimous All-American in the University of Iowa. And we all appreciated him, loved him. And he was unbelievable with the media as well. Like, probably the best.
Yes, he was the best.
Probably the best I've ever experienced in my time covering the Hawkeyes. And then he goes undrafted in the NFL draft. And it's just like, doubt him again, and then here's the moment. I know Aiden's got it queued up. I just think it's just worth playing the whole clip if you feel like it.
Yeah, I think we definitely think everybody should watch this, and we'll cue it up here in a second. And I think what it is he's kind of like the Iowa microcosm story under Kirk Ferentz. Unheralded. He had 1 million tackles in Indianapolis. I mean, it was like 500 and some tackles in high school combined. And I went over there and interviewed him. I was going to the combine. I stopped by his high school to talk to him when he was still in high school, and to come to Iowa in today's era, especially now with the portal, would he really, would he stay that long? Well, he did. He stayed. And even then, when he got bumped up to replace Jack Campbell, who is the ultimate height, weight, speed guy. But when he replaced him, I kind of wondered, I'm like, all right, is he just going to kind of be a guy? Is he going to be like, let's say, Seth Benson, who I thought was really good? Or is he going to be, and it turned out he was fantastic. And as you said, he won our Duke Slater Gold Gavel Award. And basically I guess I raised my hand and said, okay, you can't have it this year because you'd have it every year.
Exactly. He would have won it last year or 2 years ago. Last year too.
Yeah, it's just so great. And but you talk about perseverance, because he is unlike Jack Campbell. He's not height, weight, speed guy. He's not tall. He's not really, doesn't test necessarily well, doesn't have the whatever. He just has all the instincts in the world and the toughness and the physicality, and he brings it every single day. And kind of his reaction was, I think it struck a lot of Iowa fans that I kind of conversed with on Twitter today, just their same reaction when seeing it, because he's he's a beloved figure.
For sure. And, he makes the Ravens 53-man roster. Unbelievable story. I mean, it's just, this is an unbelievable franchise. I mean, it's not like he made the Panthers, or the Jets. Like he's on, the Baltimore Ravens, and he could be playing in a Super Bowl this February. I tweeted that, and I wouldn't put it past him if he saw on special teams in the Super Bowl, against Cooper DeJean and the Eagles, in February. So,
it's perfect because the Ravens and the Eagles both are really, to me, like the two model franchises. Kansas City can fit in there too because of their success, but a lot of that's attributed to one guy. And I mean, they're better than that, but what I mean is that one guy has really led them, where the other two, they haven't quite been there like that. But the way they draft, the way they select players, the way that they pick them out, that you're always like, duh, no brainer, football player. And that's Jay Higgins. He's a football player. And he goes there and he makes your team better and he makes your locker room better. And for them to recognize that shows that they've got smarts, where so many NFL people, we talk about it every spring, they outthink themselves. It's like, well, yeah, but this guy, he's 6'2", he's 235, he's got longer arms, he's twitchy, he's got great hips, and and then all of a sudden, what do? I mean, we look at cut down day. How many third rounders 2 years ago got cut? Everywhere. I mean, good grief. I mean, even like Malachi Corley was a guy a year and a half ago for the Jets, and he didn't even make their practice team. Brandon did, and Brandon should have been on the team because he had a phenomenal camp too. But with Jay, this is, we always talk, the Dallas Clark story. It should be the Jay Higgins story. He's the poster child for what Iowa can do for somebody.
Absolutely. All right, Aiden, you got that clip. Do you want to play it?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Doing good?
Heart rate's a little high right now.
Yeah, it's a tough day.
Yes, sir.
These are the hardest days for me to make these decisions, and you made it. You made it. Because I love Hawkeyes, and you made the team, man. You just busted your ass every day. You kept stacking good days, and you earned it, man. And it's a hard position to make, but you earned it.
Dude, I had a long night last night. That's crazy.
You made it.
That's crazy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so this is yours.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to actually take it back from you, but I'll give it back to you later today.
I don't even know if I believe it. I don't even know if it feels real.
When I met with you guys that first time, I told you guys you're being evaluated every single day. And you're one of the rare guys that never takes a moment off, never takes a play off, never takes a day off.
Yes, sir.
And we're proud of you. It's hard, man. It's hard to make this team, and it's really hard to make this team as an undrafted guy.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why you can't be a player in the NFL for 15 years the way you play.
Yes, sir.
So you got to keep stacking good days, right?
Yes, sir. I just knew there were so many good dudes. That's why, that was the hardest part. I just knew the roster was loaded, so.
But you earned it.
They brought me into the office.
What they saying?
He said I made it.
No, you didn't, Jay.
He said I made it.
Okay, let me call you back. Let me call you back.
I
love you. I love you.
At this level, there's so much out of your control. As a football player, all you can do is show up every day and, give it your best. And wherever the chips lie after that, they lie. And everything I've been through, coming out of college and the combine and sitting with my family, not hearing your name called, just a dream. That was a dream of mine, to hear my name called, have my family celebrate. You get to the last pick in the draft and no one calls your name, and you just start questioning, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Am I really supposed to be a football player? Am I as bad as all the articles say you are? It just feels good knowing that I'm doing the right thing. I can play football in the National Football League and I can play for the Ravens.
Damn. Cue the water. I was wiping tears away there during that one when he called his dad. Holy moly. Yeah. It's what a recruiting pitch. Any position at the University of Alabama. The Baltimore Ravens, we love Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
You give 100% every play. that's a teaching moment right there.
When you look at what Iowa has in camps this year and the players, to have 29 guys make NFL rosters says a heck of a lot about a developmental program like the University of Iowa. When you look at Y.A. Black, who was by the way, there's my name in the middle there.
I love that.
There's my watermark. Yes.
That's awesome.
But, to have 29 guys make rosters, to have 7th round picks like Connor Colby and Mason Richmond make rosters, that's pretty impressive. To then have 8 guys end up on the practice team. And I think that's kind of impressive too. But you talk about stories of perseverance. 2 stand out for me that are on practice teams: Christian Welch and Brandon Smith. They just keep plugging, and Christian's been on and off. He'll get moved up and then he'll go back down to the practice team. But he was an undrafted free agent. Same thing with Brandon Smith. And, he's gone to the UFL, and he, by all accounts, our Jets writers have said, he played his way onto the team. It was just kind of, didn't quite get there. Jack Heflin, same deal. Undrafted free agent. He's a player on the Rams. Castro made it as their practice team. Nick Jackson and then Luke Lachey was a 7th rounder and got cut, but he's they only kept 2 tight ends with the Texans, so he's going to get bumped up at some point. And so when you have 37 guys that are going to get NFL paychecks plus 2 on injured reserve, so 39 guys that are getting NFL paychecks. I mean, what a statement for your program. And Iowa State's in great shape too, and we don't need to talk about them on this one, but and there's still a couple others who actually will probably have an opportunity. I think Carl Davis will get signed. He started some games. He started the NFC Championship game. Josie Jewell, when he's healthy enough. CJ Beathard's had tryouts. It's never finished out. And then there are a couple others who face a little more uphill climbs. Steven Silianos, he was in a camp with the Lions. Michael Ojemudia was a late addition to the Cowboys. And then Jamari Harris, who, there's a reason why we were, a little hard on him last year, and this is part of it. So, But anyway, really heck of a day, heck of a week for Iowa football that way.
Yeah, and Nick Jackson's a great story. In that same Jay Higgins mold. I think it's Kayvon Merriweather. There's an undrafted free agent from many years ago that made the Bucs 53-man roster. I think that's a great story. Briley Moss is going to start this year for the Broncos. Alaric Jackson, he's getting paid. We know that one. How about Logan Lee, with the Steelers? A 6th rounder, you don't think much of it maybe at the time, and he's still plugging away. On the 53-man roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's another pretty quality franchise, Scott. So another franchise that appreciates good football players.
Right.
You kind of notice a trend here. Y.A. Black, he
had a dynamite. He had one of the best camps of anybody. He blew people away there. So
see Baldinger, raving about him on those film clips. Loved it.
Him against Tyler Linderbaum twice a year. That's gonna be great.
That will be. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway. Anything else NFL? I'm in the Jay Higgins mode right now. I just feel like it's kind of like Cooper DeJean kind of captivated us last NFL. I feel like Jay Higgins this NFL offseason for me was just such a fun story to watch because he would do stuff in the preseason. You're like, oh my God, this is what he did at Iowa, and it's like, is he going to actually make the Ravens? And it's like, nah, there's no way. He's undrafted, and he keeps doing it, and then you get that that call, and that's what you should do as a smart franchise. Yeah. You reward guys like that are really good football players. They don't have to have the measurables, and those are the guys that stick. Those are the guys that usually stick in the NFL.
Say what you will about Jim Harbaugh, but John Harbaugh always keeps undrafted free agents. He rewards them. Christian Welch, that's why he was there for so many years, because special teams matter to him. Heart and determination matter. And that's a good story, but that's the way they build their team, their roster. And the thing is, he had to earn that spot. There was no gimmies at inside linebacker for them. They have great players, and he knew it. Everybody knew it, that it was like, this is going to be really tough to get it. But when you play that well and that hard, you get rewarded. And they also knew if they waived him, he would have gotten claimed probably. But a couple other guys I want to highlight really quick before we move on. Nick Neiman got cut by the Texans. He was claimed by the Green Bay Packers and signed a contract. So he's on their active roster. A guy that still has not started a game either in college or pros, but probably will this year, is Lucas Van Ness. He's had a fantastic camp, and I partially jokingly say that it would have been nice for him to kind of get moved out of Green Bay and go somewhere else, and then have his breakout season. But it looks like he's poised to do that. Chauncey Golston, signed his big second contract and with the New York Giants, and he'll be part of that rotation, and they have some really good pass rushers there. So there's some really great stories here that Iowa can really trumpet. And for me, Chad, over the last 10 or so years, the great stories, if there are three that I would highlight for Iowa, George Kittle is obviously at the top of the list, but Jay Higgins is there, and then Chauncey Golston. Yeah. Because you talk about a guy who's 214, 215 pounds when he came in, built himself up to a 270. And the play that stands out for me is always that strip sack against Nebraska on Black Friday that clinched the game. And it's like, there's 5 years culmination of a player pushing himself to that level to make a key play in a key game at the key moment. And that's Iowa in a microcosm. That's what, builds them in that direction. And so I don't know. I'm probably rambling a little bit here, but I do think that's, Luke Elkin, makes the practice team with the Bears as a long snapper. That's pretty hard to do. Yeah.
Well, from good stories in the NFL, from the Hawkeyes to the current Hawkeyes, Scott, which a lot of new faces here, but also a lot of guys with a lot of promise. That's this year's Iowa team. We finally get to see them in action Saturday against UAlbany at 5 p.m. Kirk Ferentz will get his 205th victory. There's zero doubt about that. Hawkeyes are 38.5 point favorite. Biggest favorite they've been, Scott, since 2010 against, I think it was Tennessee Tech. I got it written down in my notes somewhere. So it's been 15 years since they've been this heavy of a favorite. But it's been a busy week of news. The depth chart came out, Scott, and I know it came out Monday, and so it's a little bit stale, but we haven't seen a depth chart since the spring, so felt like we should probably talk about some of those developments, position battles, whatnot, because the game itself isn't going to be super interesting on Saturday. No. So what jumped out at you from the depth chart?
I think it starts at wide receiver with Sam Phillips being on the one line, kind of typically the X position there, but it's a different X than what Iowa had under Brian Ferentz. I mean, if you would have had a 5'7", 183 guy at X for what Brian Ferentz had in his offense, good luck. But I think in this case, he's a lot more of a move guy. But it really is, to me, is fascinating because we've talked a lot about receivers and different ones and moving up, and this was one that you figured would make a move, but I wasn't really sure, and you didn't hear enough about him. But to be able to do this and push through and become a starter, I think really says a lot. And that was probably the first one that caught my eye. What about you, Chad?
That was definitely the biggest surprise, I think. I think Bryce Hawthorne actually being listed ahead of Jonah Pace was a little bit of an eye-opener. That tells me that we'd heard he'd been doing really well, and the fact that he's kind of I guess moved as a sophomore. I mean, They usually go with seniority, as we just talked about with Van Ness, right. To jump to the top of the depth chart alongside Aaron Graves. I mean, that was a big position of concern going into the offseason, and now it feels like it's potentially a position of strength. So that jumped out to me. And just to kind of finish up the Phillips thing, like we haven't seen anything from him. The spring game he didn't play. I don't think he had a catch at Kids Day. Yeah. So this is a bit of a mystery to us, yet at the same time, I can't remember if I mentioned it on this show or if it was my Hawk Central show, but when I did the one-on-one with Lester in July, we were kind of talking and off the thing, and I was like, who's going to be your leading receiver this year? And one of the two names he said was Phillips, and I was like, really? Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, he's really good. Like, he's just got to figure out the offense. And then lo and behold, here he is on the two deeps, on the top of the two deeps, ahead of Reese Vanderzee, who started the year last year and had 2 touchdowns in the opener, and looked great. Vanderzee looked great on Kids Day, and so to see him get supplanted, certainly not for his own performance, but just based on Phillips. And my theory, Scott, and again, we're going to have to see this on Saturday, is I think he's just a guy that gets open. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that can get him. It's height, weights, all that stuff. But if you can get open, look at like a Lad McConkey. The guy gets open. Oh, yeah. That's my theory on Phillips. We haven't seen it, but if he's a guy that can get open and make plays after the catch, like that is what Tim Lester wants. That is what the NFL wants. He comes from the NFL. That's my guess on Phillips, and he's probably one of the more intriguing guys I want to see on Saturday.
For sure, because as you said, we really haven't seen anything out of him, and you start to see the other names. You hear of, KJ Parker, and I won't say KJ Hamler, but just KJ Parker. But Reese, we've saw, and last year he was hurt, but he really flashed, and you think, oh, okay, he's good. Jacob Gill was the leading receiver. Caden Weegan, well, he's an All-American kick returner. He's got to figure in there somewhere. Dayton Howard flashed to me earlier. Jarrett Bowie, had been hurt, but he had some moments last year. So you have all these guys, and you just kind of wonder who's going to step up. But Phillips was just kind of lurking in the background. And as you said, if he's a Cooper Kupp, if he's somebody, Wes Welker or something, just based on their frame, if he could do that and find ways to get open and get the ball in space, then that's better than what Iowa's had in a long, long time, especially for that position. So, you could, I think from talking to Lester a little bit, I was asking about X receiver at the media day, just kind of what's your thoughts on it and what do you want to do with it? Yeah. And he wasn't like, okay, this needs to be our, Brandon Smith guy, big physical, beat the guy off the line of scrimmage that way in a tough fashion. You just find a way to get open, and they do things differently with him. And I think that's probably the case here. But I also think that there's probably going to be 5 receivers somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 snaps a piece. And I think, maybe 6 receivers and, between 20 and 30, so it's going to be interchangeable, I think, Chad. Yeah,
especially this week. We said, as for the game itself, we don't expect it to be competitive, right?
No,
at all?
No, not at all. No. This is a team that's 4-8, that's got an interim head coach. That's starting quarterback. I don't even, he was like, he didn't even play last year. Or didn't take a snap, or if he did, it was like 2 years ago. This is a bad opponent. And now understanding, and I listened to Kirk kind of explaining on his radio show that a couple years ago they were looking at possible teams for this date, and Albany was one of 3 or 4. And at that point they had Jared Verse. They were, they won like 10 games. They went to the playoffs in FCS. So you kind of understand that, okay, this isn't the worst team in the world. And then all of a sudden you come in and they're 4-8 last year. They had a complete overhaul, interim head coach. This is, but you know what? Based on the full schedule that they gotta go through. And I did a full breakdown of every Big Ten schedule, who's the toughest this week. I put Iowa 3rd, and it has by far the most difficult home schedule. So it kind of deserves to have a cupcake to go with all that, well done steak that's coming down its pipe.
Exactly. So what are the expectations for you, Scott? Let's start with Mark Gronowski. What do you want to see from QB1 out of the gate this weekend? I wrote a lot about that. I've kind of talked about it on my other show, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts on what you want to see from Gronowski in his Hawkeye debut.
I want to see him on time on routes. I want to see him hitting receivers forward, not backward. I want to see passes hitting them in hands in stride. leading the receivers, putting the receivers in position to make plays. You could go off and say, well, I want him to complete 75% of his passes for 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's the stats are the stats. But what I want to see, and it's more intangible, is when you're throwing a slant, is it right there where they are? Do they have to stop their feet? Do they have to turn around? Are you leading your receivers? And I'd expect him to be in pretty good shape this time around. But that to me is, and you've got different receivers, different heights. I mean, we're talking about the differences between 5'7" and 6'4" between your X receivers. So you're going to have to adjust to how they are in different speeds, of course, which you always deal with. But that to me is what my expectation is for Mark Gronowski. So how do you see this?
Yeah, I wrote about this in an article published this morning. But I want to see him. I don't want to see him rack up a bunch of yards with like a bootleg where Addison Ostrenga's dragging across the middle and it's a 40-yard pass where big whoop. You completed that. I want to see him drop back in the pocket at least 2 or 3 times and sling a ball into tight coverage and be accurate, just like you said. I mean, I think that's what they need from this quarterback, because you're not going to be wide open against Penn State. You got to make tough throws. You're going to have to make big throws and clutch throws. And so on the occasions where guys are covered, don't throw it 7 yards out of bounds. Like, make the throw. If he's got a step. If Seth Anderson's got a step, hit him. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to see that more than stats. I'm not going to get carried away with however many points they score, because this is not going to be a good team. And frankly, they should score a ton of points because I think their backups are pretty good. I think Hank Brown's pretty good, and they're going to let him play. They're not going to have him hand off. They got 6 running backs that are good. They've got a full 2 offensive lines that are pretty good, I think. Yeah. And so I think this could be a real mauling in terms of the scoreboard. It has the potential to be, even if you bench guys with a big lead. So that part's not going to impress me as much, but I want to see that kind of thing from Gronowski. Obviously, don't get hurt. Make some smart decisions with your legs. I'd like to see him maybe run a few times just to put that on film. Throw deep a few times. I think they will. I mean, he's going to take some shots. They're going to cheat up against the run. He's going to have some play action opportunities, I think, to Seth Anderson, maybe Sam Phillips, maybe KJ Parker, some deep guy, maybe Caden Weechin. We'll see. But yeah, that's what I want to see from Gronowski more than whatever the stat line is.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're right. You almost want to see him take chances and risks in tight throws, because even next week's opponent, they have some NFL guys in the secondary. I mean, Jontez Williams, Cooper, Marcus Neal had some big time hits, and that's a good team that they're going to play. And we can talk about Iowa State a little bit later, but I think in this case, you do need to have be able to show you can do that and have confidence that you can do that. And the only way you get confidence is to actually make it happen. And this is not going to be a competitive game. I mean, this is. We were talking a little bit before. I mean, I think this is maybe the worst opponent that's come to Iowa that Iowa's played against since maybe Drake in '85. I hate to be mean to Drake, but it's true. It's just, it's an FCS opponent, so you're automatically going down. And I know Kirk tried to bring up the UNI factor. He's going to bring it up until he stops coaching, and then he'll bring it up in his Hall of Fame speech. But this isn't UNI. This isn't North Dakota State or South Dakota State from a couple of years ago. This is like they would get beat, 50-0 by those teams. It's just, But is there anything on defense that you're looking at?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to me, so Tyler Tashman, my colleague at the Register, he got a hold of their coach, so he talked to them, and it sounds like, first of all, their biggest weakness is offensive line. So that could be a tough day or a good day for Bryce Hawthorne, Aaron Graves, and company. But it sounds like maybe they're, where they've got their most explosiveness is at the wide receiver position. And so, hey, let's see what Iowa's got at cornerback, because they're starting the same 2 guys, Scott, that they started the Music City Bowl with, TJ Hall and Deshaun Lee on the top of the depth chart. Now, did they win those position battles? Yes. Did TJ Hall, according to Phil Parker, really take a bunch of steps in the spring? Yes. So he's, seemingly a much better player than he was in the Music City Bowl, but Iowa got kind of torched in the Music City Bowl. So, and those are the same two cornerbacks. You're trying out the same two cornerbacks. Shaheed Barrows didn't go win the job. Jalen Watson didn't go win the job. Rashad Godfrey didn't go win the job. So, are these two guys your guys or not? Let's see them get tested a little bit. I'm sure they're going to, because that's probably about the only way Albany is going to try to move the ball is through those receivers. And so, that's defensively, that's what I'm watching the most. Obviously, I have a ton of intrigue at linebacker. Like, I want to see these young linebackers bad. Like, I want to see Buffington out there. I want to see Weiskopf out there. And that's no offense to Montgomery and Van Kekerix, but these are the guys I want to see. I want to see Preston Reese out there. These young guys, because Scott, they're going to get two chances to play these guys if they want to see what they've got in front of a Kinnick Stadium crowd. And they don't have any more luxury after those two games, this one and UMass. But other than that, good luck finding a blowout win where you can get these guys any action. So get them in there Saturday and see what you got. I mean, you know what you got in Shire and Harrell, even though they haven't played a ton. You know what you got. So let's see what they got.
Yeah, there's no Purdue, Northwestern, or Maryland on the schedule where you might have that kind of situation. So you've got to see what they have. I mean, if it goes the way you think it was, I mean, I would say if it's 3-0 Iowa at the end of the first quarter, I'd be really disappointed in them. I would say, you failed. You get an F for your first quarter. And if you give up any points in the first half, I would feel the same way, because that means that somehow they had a big play on you somewhere. That's what it is. It's because they're not going to be able to churn 5 yards a carry or whatever against Iowa. So, but defensively, I'm anxious to see the starting linebackers. I mean, I think we know that what Shire is capable of, but he's got to do it. Jaden Harrell, are you going to be... You're going to be the next Jay Higgins and this game's not going to be the tell for it. It's going to be the next week, and it's going to be the weeks after UMass. That's going to be the real prove it time. But it's going to be different for them. First time Jackson Rexroth, that they're going to be in these positions to make plays. And, looking ahead a little bit, I mean, I want to see how they stick to crossing routes and tight ends and coverage, because they're going to face one of the best tight ends in the country next week in Ben Bramer. And Iowa State has some good tight ends too, multiple. They'll run. I think they ran a 14 personnel package. So they're willing to go slam ball on you. And so I want to see what these guys are capable of doing in space in their first career starts. Don't be out of position, because like Amani Jones, now it's about 5 or 6 years ago, but he really struggled in his first game. I mean, it was a really rough performance for him, and he had all the physical ability in the world. And so I want to see how these guys handle it when they're going up against a different opponent, seeing different, splits and seeing different tells and everything.
Yeah. One other depth chart thing, and then we'll move on. That was interesting. Lutmer listed at cash, Entringer at strong, and then Xavier Wampa or Entringer at free, Scott, which makes me think, and we didn't get any clarification from this from Ferentz on Tuesday, but that makes me think that Wampa is going to come off the field when they go 4-3, right? Probably. Lutmer to strong and Entringer to free. That'd be my guess what that means.
It either means that or Entringer goes to cash, but it does appear to be that case, that if they go 4-3, that it's Entringer that moves and Wampa that comes off the field. That's what happened last year. And it's interesting. I don't know how often they're going to do that. I mean, I think Iowa State is probably Iowa State and Minnesota are the biggest, most physical teams are going to play. Mm-hmm. So those are the ones where it might be a little more shakeups, but I think by and large they're going to play more cash. When they play, even Iowa State has some, they'll run 11 personnel quite a bit too, but they have big physical tight ends. So I think it is intriguing though, and I just wonder, how it's all going to, and we're going to chart it, we're going to see it, and we're going to record it, and you're going to DVR Monday it on Play Today.
Yeah, right. I don't think they want to take a lot more entering off the field. So
Yeah.
I think they think really highly of both those guys. So
Yeah.
Well, speaking of game day. Game Day Men's Health can get you back in the game, make you feel like you're in your 20s again. Us old dudes can up in the early 50s can feel like we're in our 20s again. Game Day Men's Health just been a huge blessing in my life. Just continue to feel the benefits of it every day. I'm going to talk about something in a couple weeks, I think, of something I'm going to try to embark on, probably thanks to this testosterone replacement therapy that I've been on. So really appreciate their partnership with us and for me getting involved with them. And you can get involved too. It's not too late, just because the season's starting. This is a great time to do it. Get connected with Game Day Men's Health with a private, free, no obligation consultation at GameDayMen'sHealth.com or stop by one of their locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, or North Liberty, Scott.
Absolutely. Stop by, say hi. They're great people at each of those locations, and I'm thrilled to say that on Sunday I reached the number that I've never thought I would get back to, and that is 198 for me. And that's thanks to Game Day Men's Health. I'm 55 pounds down since I started taking this, and I feel better than I have in 30 years. And I'm lighter than I have been probably since then too. Really, it kind of goes hand in hand, Chad, with being a sports writer. It's like, all right, I'm going to eat bad, I'm going to drink too much, and then get lazy and fat. But no, now I'm trying to reverse that, and Game Day Men's Health has certainly helped me out do that, and feel just in the gym, more energy. You feel more aggressive as you need to be, and I'm not PR in there. It might be a little while before I do any of that, but I am on a pretty good path. So anyway, I can't recommend it enough. And yeah, it's Labor Day coming up on Monday. As we know, get past the holiday and kick off your season right, and go to Game Day Men's Health.
Absolutely. We love them, appreciate them, and thankful for all the listeners that have been helped by Game Day as well. Scott, do you feel like any more Hawkeye talk here before we move on to Iowa's Week 2 opponent?
Yeah, I think as we know, Chad. We're not hiding this. We're not trying to say. It's as you said, what are there 38-point favorites?
38.5. Yeah.
And the only way that they don't have that, Chad, is if in the fourth quarter, Kirk says, let's just run the ball and get out of here.
Yeah.
And by that means they have the walk-ons and they're running the football, because I think this is name the score. So, you just don't want to, but Kirk never embarrasses people. But I think what we saw, Chad, in Ireland, is what all eyes should be on. And it's not just because of the rivalry. It's because of the team you're facing. And I think the rivalry is an important part of it, and you can never take that element out. But in watching Iowa State compete, that's a pretty good freaking team, and they played like it the other day. You think about it, they ended the game on the 1 yard line, kneeling, and they had a fumble at the 1 yard line when it was raining on a really kind of a Johnny Pascuzzi try to block Dominic Orange play, when they, it was the pitch that hit Carson Hansen in the face in the rain, which was a dumb call in my opinion. But, otherwise, they dominated that game, and they dominated a pretty good Kansas State team. So I think there's a lot there to watch.
Yeah, I was curious where your thoughts were. We really hadn't talked about it much, and I noticed. I feel like I saw enough, conversation on Twitter to see that a lot of Iowa fans were feeling pretty confident about the trenches. But what I came away with, Scott, was that's a really good quarterback that the Cyclones have, and he may not have the receivers that he had last year, but he can make those receivers a lot better because he's a really good quarterback. And so that's dangerous when you've got a quarter. That's kind of sometimes what hurts Phil Parker's defense the most is a quarterback that can make every throw. I'm not saying Rocco Beck is a Heisman Trophy candidate just yet, but he looked really good to me, and he made some clutch throws and really nice throws in some tough weather. and I think he made those receivers better than maybe they are. And that's a sign of that's tough if you're facing a good quarterback, because I think Phil Parker kind of feasts on mistakes. And if he's not going to make a mistake, then that's going to be tough. And the other thing that impressed me, Scott, about Iowa State was, forever, this was a team that, at least it seemed like, and I think the record shows this, is that close games, they would sometimes buckle and screw up. Kind of like, not as bad as Nebraska does, but for a while, that was kind of one of Campbell's, things that held them back. But last year, they were great in one-score games, including at Iowa City. And then in this game, they win a tight game with some clutch plays, good play calling to kind of put the game away. And so those two things right there, that impresses me and makes me a little bit more, a little bit more leery that Iowa can go in and win that game.
They're 7-1 in their last 8 games in one-score games, going back to Snowmageddon 2 years ago. And that tells you that they are comfortable in those situations. That tells me that they are more than capable of competing and they feel confident. I mean, last year, you're down 13-0 at Kinnick, and Iowa is running at will on you, and yet you come back, you make big plays. You make big pass plays at critical junctures, and then you have a kicker who makes a huge kick in a tough environment, a tough situation. Those are games, Chad, I would say a couple of years ago, take the previous decade, they probably misses that kick, or something happens where they don't win it. But now they have confidence that they can. And they had a couple other great comebacks too last year. I think UCF was another one. And to do that is against the number 17 team in the country, their second biggest rival. Really a great organic rivalry. I really think the Big 12 is stupid in not preserving this. I mean, it's kind of like the Iowa-Wisconsin situation, I think, about 15 years ago. But, the other thing I think that was really impressive to me was that they stuck with the run. In the first half, they did not run the ball very well. I mean, they had like 23 yards on 20 carries throughout the first half, and they were really struggling to get anywhere. And it kind of reminded me a lot of some of Iowa's attempts at running the football, and they never really get anywhere. But they stuck with it, and their line started working it. And by the end of the game, they were dominating the line of scrimmage. And so, I think if you're an Iowa fan assessing this, you could be confident your team will be very competitive against Iowa State. I believe that will be the case. But I also think that you should respect them as a team. You don't have to respect Iowa State because if you hate them, that's fine. But you have to respect the team, the coaching job, the quarterback, their ability and their desire to beat you. So you could be nervous about this game. And they have an MF in the middle in Dominic Orange. Mm-hmm. He is a beast. On their fourth down stop in the first half, I think Marcus Neal came in and stopped K-State there. He took on 3 blocks. He took on the whole interior, and he gave some ground, but so what? You're getting a triple team. And that enabled Marcus Neal to knife in the backfield to stop the play. And it's like, okay, now Iowa center is better, but still, that's a dude there. That's an NFL dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Citrus.
Big Citrus. Love that nickname. That's also a great nickname. It's
going to translate well to the NFL.
Yeah.
When he goes. But yeah, no, that game's going to be unbelievable. And I totally agree. Absolutely, respect the opponent here. You've won 6 straight in Ames, but this is going to be a tough one. And let's see how. That's why I want to see. That's why I want to see how Gronowski looks this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he clunky? Is it some fumbled snaps, some turnovers? I mean, you look back even at last year's Iowa opener against Illinois State, Scott, and it was punt, field goal, punt, turnover and downs, punt. And then a field goal right at the end of the first half that kind of got them going finally, and they went up 6-0 at half. Everyone remembers they ended up winning that game, 40-0 or something like that. But it was 3-0 until a minute left in the first half. Yeah, it was 40-0. So that's not what you want to see. You don't want to see that like you did with Cade last year. So, and that's so. This game, yes, is going to be a big Iowa win on Saturday, but you still want to see that this looks like a team that can be prepared to go win a game in Ames, because that could, if you win that game, you can put yourself on a nice path this season. So there is some urgency despite the opponent this week. It's kind of what we're saying with this Iowa State thing.
Yeah, and no matter what happens, with a 5 o'clock kickoff and it ends at 8:05, 8:30, you could still go to Big Grove. Wherever you're located, you can go in Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, which is a huge place in South Iowa City. It's definitely worth your time. Des Moines, and of course the OG in Solon. Make sure to have the Easy Eddie. It's as good as it comes when it comes to IPAs. Citrus Surfer, everybody loves that. The neighborhood beer is a great, relaxing Pilsner. It's better than what you really would have if you're just to go domestic. I know everybody in the state loves Busch Light, but I'd go with the neighborhood beer over Busch Light any day of the week and twice on Saturday. And the food on their tap rooms is top notch, and we're getting into the 1939s. It's Amber Ale time, and Oktoberfest is on the way. So that's
you're going to be uncontrollable once Oktoberfest starts.
Oh yes, yeah. My son's going to the real Oktoberfest. He lives in Germany,
really?
so he's going, and I'm excited to hear from him on that.
You should send him some Big Grove to Germany and have them, test it out over there in Deutschland.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Maybe, what would be great is if you brought Big Grove to Deutschland. Yeah. And then you also brought the Hawkeyes to Deutschland.
There you go.
When we earlier this week, Seth Emerson and I, we put together our second, and now you can call it annual, SEC Big Ten soiree jamboree, where we lined up the teams 16 against 16 and picked neutral sites for them. I picked Iowa, and he picked Auburn, and I have them playing in Munich. Because I thought, hey, if Farmageddon could be in Ireland, what's more Iowan than Munich, and have the Oktoberfest beers there.
There you go.
So that if Chad, if you had a chance to pick, to do an Iowa schedule, and Beth Getz came to you and Kirk said, okay, in reality, he would be retired because he said no to this. But if Beth came up to you and said, Chad, if you wanted to, you said Beth Getz, you wanted to,
your Beth Getz voice is not good there.
No, it's terrible. I'm sorry. But if you wanted to put Iowa against any opponent in any location, neutral site, where would you go? And would it be Europe?
Well, if it was Europe, I would love to go. You know how the NFL goes to like London? That would be good. Something like that. Wembley Stadium or something like that. Yeah. I think that would be awesome. I'm trying to think of like if you went maybe to Norway, because there's it's like a lot of Norwegians here in the in the eastern part of the northeast part of the state, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if they're playing Luther College, but
yeah, right. I don't know. German. I think that's probably Germany's a good call. Germany's probably the best call, I guess. But opponent wise though, I hadn't thought about it too much. It would have to be. Yeah, obviously Notre Dame is what everyone would pick, but a realistic opponent.
No, I've got mine.
Yeah, you said Auburn, or is that? Oh no, they said Auburn. What's your?
That's just our SEC Big Ten challenge. Okay. I mean, if I was to, if we were to look at Farmageddon like in Europe, to me, I would say Wisconsin or Minnesota, one of those two, in Munich. And since we're playing fantasy scheduling football here, we could always say, sure, let's do it around Oktoberfest. That would be out of this world. But if we were going to say first week of the year, I think Floyd of Rosedale over in there you go, Munich.
Let's do that.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. And
Minnesota, I like it.
Yeah, that would be the game to do.
Get PJ Fleck over. He'd be all into it. He would be so into it, and Kirk Ferentz would not be.
No,
it'd be funny at the press conference. PJ Fleck would be just going nuts.
Yeah,
talking a mile a minute, and then
Kirk would be jet lagged.
But it would have to be week 0 if Iowa ever. Yeah, and he says they're never going to do it, so it would have to be post Ferentz era. So in the Seth Wallace or Tim Lester or whatever era. LeVar Woods era.
LeVar or another coach era. But, I'd also say one thing I do kind of question a little bit with Iowa State, and I'm anxious to watch them this week, is, that's a heck of a long trip. And they played a really grueling game. This wasn't, dipping your toe in the water. I mean, this was getting in the ice bath right away. And South Dakota is not the type of team that you just want to let's just fool around and go through the motions. That was a top 4 seed last year in FCS. And they're, on the doorstep. There's a lot of players from the state of Iowa that play for South Dakota. They're going to come to Ames and play really, really hard. And it's somewhat about style points. You need them. But I kind of question that. I think in their case, they would have been a lot better off taking the week off, because they have 3 bye weeks now since they played on week 0. It would have been a lot smarter for them in my eyes, is to do that. Now we'll see what Matt Campbell does. I mean, maybe it's a way to make all the correctables before you play Iowa, but still, I think this has the potential. I'm not saying they're going to lose. I don't think they're going to lose, but so if Iowa ever played in Munich and we're toasting and singing Prosit, I'm Prosit, and that the next week, I don't think they would play a game.
No. Definitely not, for sure. Well, Scott, there are Big Ten games tonight, as you said. We are a Big Ten show as well, and the whole Big Ten schedule's not awesome, I guess. I mean, we kind of went over this the other day. Like, there's a lot of duds in the non-conference schedule for the Big Ten, but there's a huge one Saturday. But before we get to that, Scott, I'm really looking forward to Nebraska versus Cincinnati tonight, when Dylan Raiola comes through the tunnel at Arrowhead Stadium and faces Cincy. I think that could be a really good game, personally. I think I've heard Cincinnati could be a little bit of a dark horse in the Big 12 too. Who knows? But I don't think that's going to be an easy game for the Huskers, Scott. 8 o'clock ESPN. Huskers favored by 6.5 from what I can tell. I think that's a big one for Nebraska to get off on the right foot for Matt Rule.
Yeah, it has to be for them. I mean, they are a team that expects to compete, and if you want to, and they've always had this outsized expectations every year where they think that it's going to come back, and then, well, this is year 3, and Matt Rule in year 3 has always been good, and we saw some flashes of that last year, and I think this is a natural building block for them. Dylan Raiola, Dane Key was a really big addition for them on offense, and they've got some other pieces, and I think they've got a chance to be pretty successful. And this is a borderline home game for them. I mean, it's only a couple hours away. It's in Kansas City. Cincinnati moved it there for the money, obviously, and they're basically playing a road game. So I think this is good for Nebraska. A good chance. Their schedule is not among the most difficult. In fact, I think I added like the 3rd easiest in the Big Ten. And this doesn't even count their non-conference games. So this is a chance for them to get on a good start. And I'm sure most of the people listening to this podcast right now hope it doesn't happen.
Travis Kelce's alum playing against
Did you happen to see? Did you see the tweet that Northwestern dug up?
Yeah, I did. That was great. That was so good.
The Northwestern looking good.
From 2009, right?
Yeah, that was the game that they beat Ricky Stanzi in Iowa.
He's talking about the Iowa game?
Yes, because they were undefeated too. That's why I pointed it out.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah, because that's when they upset Iowa, and so looking good because Cincinnati was undefeated, Iowa was undefeated, and then of course Northwestern dug it out of the trash and flashed it. So that was funny, but so I guess I wonder if Patrick Mahomes will lend himself over to walk out with Dylan Raiola, and they could be brothers or something. But,
oh man, it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable.
It is, seeing his mannerisms and stuff, and it just completely mimics it. But a sneaky good game tonight, though, Chad. There's actually is, to me, I think all 3 of the crossovers between the Big Ten and MAC are not like walks in the park. Ohio and Buffalo are probably the 2 best teams in the MAC. And Ohio going to Rutgers is not just going to be this. Rutgers should win. They're the better team on paper, but it could be challenging. Buffalo might be the best team in the MAC and go into Minnesota. Minnesota's starting a new quarterback, a redshirt freshman. They've got a lot of really good pieces. I like Minnesota a lot, and then finally, Miami of Ohio is one of the better teams in the MAC, and going to Wisconsin, and that is a team that I am fearful for because no team in the country, in my opinion, has as tough of a schedule as Wisconsin. I mean, they played 9 bowl teams from last year. The last 8 games are against bowl teams in the Big Ten. And Alabama, you go Alabama, then you get a week or 2 off, and then a nobody game, and then all of a sudden you're playing Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington. And I'm going to get these two mixed up: Illinois, Indiana, or Indiana, Illinois, and then you end with Minnesota. I mean, come on, man. That's no murderer's row there. Yeah. I mean, so they have to win. I mean, period. Or this is going to be a bigger disaster than it's potentially could be.
Yeah, honestly, like the Thursday night slate is better than the Saturday slate, except for one game, pretty much.
Yeah,
the Big Ten. So I encourage you guys to all tune in tonight. Block off your Thursday night. Let me just run down the times for you. Rutgers, Ohio is at 5 p.m. Central on BTN, so you get a nice early start after work. Then you catch PJ Fleck and company, your guy Scott, at 7 o'clock on FS1, and YouTube TV got it all sorted out with Fox, at least temporarily, so you can watch all these games if you're a YouTube TV guy like us. Yeah. And then as we said, Nebraska, Cincy at 8 on ESPN, Miami, Wisconsin at 8 on BTN. So your night is full. Big Ten fans out there. Tomorrow night you get Michigan State and Illinois and as huge favorites. And then Saturday, Scott, big noon. It is Texas, number 1 Texas at number 3 Ohio State in the 11 a.m. game. Great news, Hawkeye fans. You get to watch this whole thing before you even head over to Kinnick Stadium if you want. It's on Fox. Ohio State's favored by 1.5. I mean, big game, obviously, for Ohio State, but big game for the Big Ten here, Scott?
This is huge for everybody involved. And you got number 1 versus number 3 in the AP poll, number 1 versus number 2 in the coaches poll. These two teams played in the semifinals last year, and Texas was going in to try to tie the game, and then Jack Sawyer came up with the play of the century, and on Quinn Ewers and his old roommate. I mean, what a great storyline that was, and ended up winning the national title. So Texas remembers that. Texas has some great defensive players. Ohio State lost their whole entire defensive line to the NFL, but guess what? Their new defensive line's pretty good too. I mean, they would have started for most teams last year. I'm as everybody, the main attraction's quarterback for both teams. I mean, you've got Arch Manning, who we all expect is going to come in and be like Peyton Manning or Eli or Archie or whatever. Julian Sand's not a guy that you're just going to just put on the shelf, though. I mean, he's a 5-star for a reason. He committed to Alabama and then signed, and then Nick Saban left. Oh, by the way, Ohio State has the 2 best players in the country, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, and Colin Simmons, maybe the best pass rusher in the country for Texas. So this might be the first of 2 meetings between these 2 teams. I don't know what you think,
Sorry.
Chad. But.
Yeah, I know. I had to unmute myself. I was struggling here with technology. I mean, I kind of lean Texas in this one. I'm just, not as... I know Ohio State's favored slightly, but a lot of motivation for Texas. A new quarterback for the Buckeyes. Hey, I see a little something behind your shoulder there.
I know.
A little
Zilla.
Yeah, those are the Bearcats sneaking up on the Huskers here.
He heard Wildcats earlier.
Okay. Lost my train of thought there, but
the Texas,
new quarterback for the Buckeyes. Jim Knowles no longer the DC at Ohio State. Does that transition hurt? You don't have Chip Kelly anymore. I don't know. It's just a new. It's kind of like the Detroit Lions almost. Like you lose your coordinators, and are you still going to be as good? We'll see. But
you look at motivation, which is just part of it. I mean, when you lose a game like that, if you're Texas, you just feel differently. I mean, if you were to ask Iowa fans, hey, do you remember beating Northwestern at night in 2011 when Tanner and Tanner Miller returned a interception, 98 yards for a touchdown. I'll be like, yeah, I kind of remember that. Do you remember when Dan Persa threw that touchdown to beat you in 10? Yes.
Yeah,
and I hate you for bringing it up, so you remember, or it's like, hey, do you remember beating Wisconsin? Yeah. But then we bring up another play in 2010 and I can't even mention it or I'll get
don't mention that.
Tomatoes at me and stuff. So it's like, that's the case for Texas, that their season lost because of Ohio State. Now they get a chance to turn around and play them the next game. That's going to be big. But, I did, for this morning, I wrote, 10 big storylines for the Big Ten going into this year, 10 big topics. And, some of them make sense, whether it's the defending champs, the drama at Michigan, because now, that to me, that's silly that he's sitting out, Sharon Moore's going to sit out games 3 and 4 instead of 1 and 2. Especially 4 is the Big Ten opener at Nebraska. And if Nebraska's decent, do you really want to sacrifice, a Big Ten opener? But, a couple of other things, Penn State, can you break through? They play Nevada. Their score is going to be similar to UAlbany, but they don't play anybody in the non-con, which kind of leads me to the scheduling debate right now, because the SEC is now going to 9 games.
Yeah.
And
in 2026. Yeah.
Right. So, the Big Ten
finally.
Yeah, and the thing I love the most is that they're also mandating you have to have non-conference power opponents. So
yes.
the Big Ten usually does that anyway. This year they kind of tapered off that. They need to ramp it up again. Everybody needs to go 10 power conference opponents. That should be a mandate to me. So I like
Kurt
that.
Cignetti.
Yeah. Well, now he has. Now you can say you have to. Delaney told everybody to do it, and then everybody said, "Well, they aren't doing it. Why should we do it?" And then that's why they dropped it off. But Kirk, we haven't even really talked about it. He ties Woody Hayes on Saturday night. And that's a huge achievement, as we know. Only 6 quarterbacks return in place for the Big Ten this year from last year. That's kind of a big deal, it's only the third, and then some of the rivalry games. I mean, we can talk about this later in the season, but like USC Notre Dame, this is last year for that. They don't have a contract coming up, and so we'll see if that gets extended. And one funny thing I did mention is I talked to one of the Washington defensive backs at Media Days, and I asked him, I said, okay, which is your biggest rival? Is it Washington State? Because they always played them last in the Apple Cup every year, or is it Oregon? He goes, it's the Green School.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, why is that? He goes, that's just the way it is. So I thought that was kind of funny, but anyway, that came out this morning too.
Okay. Not Tulane, right?
No, that's for Northwestern because they're playing Tulane, and
that's right. The Brendan Sullivan revenge game. Yeah.
He gets another revenge game. Although, is he healthy now? Yeah, I know he was hurt for a little while.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play. But
and Jake Retzloff's there, but
yeah. One more good game on the calendar. So after you get back from UAlbany, you can still tune in to Utah at UCLA. Actually, that will be a pretty good game, an old Pac-12 game. 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock Central on Fox. So that'll be one final good game on Saturday on your Big Ten menu, folks. So you got it from Thursday night to Saturday night. We got you set here.
Yeah, and then we got games.
Yamaleva.
Yeah. Nico, he was quite the attraction there at Big Ten Media Days, as you can imagine, and it was his first time talking. And I got to credit to Sean Foster. He said, I want him to share his story. It's fine. It's time for him to do that. Mm-hmm. And so, he brought him out there, got it all out of his system. Now they move on. But that's a really good game too, because that's a game where, and this is what spills over into next week with Iowa State, with Michigan, Oklahoma, with even Oregon, Oklahoma State, Utah, UCLA, that these games matter at the end of the year too, when you start stacking up conferences, and how those games and those results add up could impact the who gets in the last at-large spot. It's like, well, Michigan beat Oklahoma, and then even though Michigan's 8-4, they're not getting in, but the team that beat them is because of that.
Exactly. And then you got Sunday night, you got Notre Dame, Miami. That's not a Big Ten game, but it's a top 10 matchup. So This is it. We're here. We made it.
Yeah,
we made it, Scott, to week 1. I mean, week 0 was fine, but week 1 is actually here, and we're pretty pumped for it. And next week we get to preview the Cyhawk game. So that's going to be crazy. It's going to be so intense next week in our state.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, for Scott Dochterman, this is Chad Leistikow. Catch us next week. It's going to be a big show next Thursday here on Legends and Listeners, only on Iowa Everywhere.